Welcome to the Speaking Light into Abortion podcast, where I talk about all the reasons it's possible for you to thrive after your abortion. I'm your host, Amanda Kingsley, and 2 years after my own abortion, I certified as a life coach, so I could serve women after abortion in all the ways they've been deserving and lacking for centuries. Consider this your launchpad for finding strength and community in yourselves and in each other. All right, another podcast week. We are podcasting overseas today. I have a podcast guest today to share with you who's doing some really interesting, I think unique and amazing work in the world. Philippa, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the audience. So I like to have my guests introduce themselves the way that feels appropriate to this podcast, this audience. Like, what do you want to say about yourself here today? And then we'll talk a little bit about, what you're doing in your work and what brought us together and all the things.
Great. Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. My story is that I am a quite happy person. Like the fundamentals of me are very kind of happy and curious. And I lived my life like that until my mid-20s when I had my abortions. And we're going to talk about that more.
Yeah.
But that was a really big shift in my life. And it affected me a lot and many of my choices in my life. I've been working as a yoga teacher for 15 years, I think. So that was a great tool for me. And I wanted to I felt more of an urge to spread that. So I started an organization that implements yoga into schools in Sweden, where I live. So that's what I've been working with the past 13 years. And it's been great. I've been writing some books about it. It's been so much fun and challenging too. Yeah. And then I gave birth. I met my husband and it all happened very fast. So 3 months after we met, I was pregnant and it was great. I mean, I was super happy. So, and then I gave birth and I had birth injuries. And I didn't get any kind of support from the healthcare system, which was really challenging for me and also kind of a deja vu from the abortions because I didn't experience any support at that time either, especially not like mentally. And then it was unfortunate because they actually pacified me. So they said, there's nothing you can do. And I was like, okay, there's nothing I can do. This is my life from now on. And then I gave birth to my second son and I had a very symptomatic prolapse, which was like hell for me. I was super depressed and I had 2 small kids to take care of. And, I didn't want to go out of my bed at all. Yeah. So then something was ignited in me. I think I was really angry one morning and I was like, I need to fix this. If the healthcare system can't support me, I'm going to fix it. So it took about a year. I was on a healing journey and I tried so many methods and met a lot of teachers and so on. So I improved a lot. I had no symptoms after a year. I'm still on that healing journey. And I believe a crucial part of that healing journey was also to heal my abortion experiences.
I think this is so fascinating how we're kind of on these parallel journeys where, excuse me, like a lot of us experience things in our lives and they kind of shake us up. And then there's that one thing that happens. And it's like, this I need to turn into something. Like, this has ignited something in me that's not going away, that I need to make change. Like, I need to do something about. And so for me, that was my abortion. For you, the abortion just kind of like stirred the pot. But then the prolapse really was like, nope, this is not okay anymore. It's time for me to use my voice. So I think we are two great examples of how not everything you experience has to turn into something like concrete and purposeful and like amazing. But if you let those experiences kind of happen and grow from them and recognize them, you may bump into that time where it's like, this isn't going away unless I do something about it. Like, this is here for me as much as it sucked, right? Like, I wouldn't wish abortion on anyone. I wouldn't wish prolapse on anyone, but it has turned into something meaningful and purposeful in my life. So like, we're kind of on those parallel journeys. So we met through, not necessarily through your abortion healing, although it is all related, but through the work that you're doing after your birth injuries. So do you want to talk about what women's cycles is? Because that is how we were introduced to each other, and what you created from your trauma, right? Like what the gift you are giving to the world based on what you've experienced.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate to have a fantastic husband, and he's also a tech entrepreneur. So he has built a lot of tech companies. So from when we were having a discussion about my prolapse experience, about a year after, like when I had improved, so that I had some perspective on it, we were discussing this phase of being so lonely, feeling no support. I had never heard of a prolapse even before. And there I was having one. And 50% of all women experience prolapse within their lifetime. So it's just so crazy. I had never heard about it. And I felt so lonely. I didn't know of anyone who had it either. So, and then he was the one actually with the idea that maybe we can create something that supports women who are in that situation. Yeah. And we started to do some research on, is it only birth injuries or prolapse, or do women experience this within other areas of their health as well?
Yeah.
And not super surprisingly, they do, unfortunately. And it can be anything from PMS to menopause and everything in between.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so lonely and not supported. Just like so much the story of women and their healthcare. So I think you giving space to these conversations where we don't have to feel so alone, we can have some tools, we can have some community. Like you said, our healthcare systems don't meet our needs, right? So when you went through the prolapse and they said, well, good luck. Yeah. That's a horrible feeling. I have had that. So if we talk about my story, like I had that feeling. I had an illness in my early 20s and it landed me with colitis, which is like intestinal. And the doctors just said, well, take these 6 pills every day for the rest of your life and it'll be managed. And I was like, what? Like, I'm in my early 20s. Yeah. I don't want to just take all this medication every day. I want to have a family. Like something's not right. And they were like, that's all we can do for you. And so we live in totally different healthcare systems, right? Like completely different managed healthcare. And that was a time in my life where I was like, this is not right. Like, this is not right that that's all you have for me. And And that wasn't a thing that called me. I wasn't like, I'm going to stand for colitis everywhere. Like, I found my own alternative healing, but it was, if I think back, like that was one of the first times in my life where I felt so lonely and not supported as a woman, right? And that wasn't actually, that was very related to women's health. I'd been experiencing a lot of exhaustion, which led to a physician saying, oh, it's just like chronic urinary tract infections. Because there's these certain diagnoses for women where it's like, oh, it must be that. And then I went on way too many antibiotics and it just destroyed my system. But it absolutely was women's health, right? Because they didn't know why I was so tired. And they were like, oh, just try this. And what they tried, because they didn't want to deal with me anymore, just like destroyed my system. So it's just like every single woman you meet has a story where her healthcare needs were not met, mental, physical, emotional. And she felt alone. And we both in different ways are creating spaces where it's like, hey, we're not alone. Let's talk about this. That's really fascinating. I've definitely never anticipated talking about colitis on my podcast, but there we are. The place to and right, that experience for me taught me how to advocate for myself, how to get what I needed, even when it wasn't available, which is what I did in my abortions, right? I mean, I had different birth experiences as well that were the same thing. It was like, I had to learn how to find what I needed, which included believing it was out there somewhere, right? Like I had to believe when everyone said, no, it doesn't exist. Like I had to go, it has to exist somewhere. And if it doesn't, I'm going to create it. But that is the gift of turning like trauma, discomfort, pain, upheaval into something, and also just having my own back. Like with that colitis, I had to have my own back, just like I did with my abortions. I was like, okay, I'm sad and no one's supporting me, so I guess I need to have my own back. Okay, now that I've dumped out all those layers of stories, tell us about how your abortions did come into play when you faced the birth injuries.
Yeah, good question. I think it was in a subtle way. So, in a way, what I see where I am now, since I'm on this healing journey, what I can see is that when I was a girl, obviously I wasn't so aware of my body. I kind of took it for granted, as kids do. And then becoming a woman, I never, celebrated that because our society don't celebrate that. Like when I got my period, I just had a pad from my mother and that's it, kind of.
Yeah.
For example. So, and then when I was 17, I started with birth control.
Yeah.
And I tried so many different varieties for like 3 months, but I always felt the side effects so much. So I went back to the doctor and then they gave me another option and another one. And, it was just ongoing for like 5 years or something. And then I was like, what is this shit? I don't want to continue with this. I'm going to stop. So I did stop. And like 2 months after, I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So, and I never really had time or the option to understand how my body worked. Like, of course, I knew as a woman I can get pregnant, but I didn't understand like fully the kind of different, because it's complex. Like our cycle is complex, but it can also teach us a lot and give us a lot of information about ourselves. But I was never taught that, as most of us are not. So then, I was 26. I was not at all ready for a kid. So we did an abortion, and everything just kind of happened so fast. And also we used a condom. So it was like frustrating that I did right, like I did the right thing. But anyway, I got pregnant, and yeah, then a year after I was pregnant again. And it was like, after the first pregnancy, I was bleeding a lot, and like the body didn't let go of what was in my uterus. So I was kind of messed up by that, I think, both physically and emotionally. And I didn't have like any space to process it until like after 6 months, it all started to stabilize. But then I was pregnant again.
Right.
And then I was like, I panicked. And did an abortion again. And then we broke up because, it wasn't a good relationship after those experiences. And also, like, the whole experience with the abortion itself was just, the doctors ask so weird questions. And they're like, you can write a like list of positive things to keep, like if you want to keep, and negative, and then you can compare. Like it was like I was going to buy something online and comparing. Like it's just, like that whole system didn't support me. It made it worse, kind of.
Yeah. Well, so here we are, you're like a young woman without, feeling alone and unsupported, getting her period, then alone and unsupported, like starting the birth control journey, then alone and unsupported in your abortion journey. And then eventually, you haven't got to that part of the story, but like alone and unsupported in your birth journey. And that was the point where you were like, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore. We got to help.
Yeah. So I withstood a lot, I think, but where I am now on this journey is that it's like my uterus and my vagina is like, hello, you need to look over here. Like, I need your attention now because you kind of neglected me for so many years. So I feel I am really getting to know my body as a woman in a completely different way. And that I wish I would have, like, as a girl and teenager.
Yeah. Wow. So fascinating. So what do you feel like, let's talk about women's cycles for a minute. So we connected because you asked me to create a course for this. You call it a membership, right?
Yeah, it's a subscription.
Yeah, subscription, right? So you asked me to create a course for this about healing after abortion. And of course, like, I was all in. I was like, yes, let's do it. The more places we can talk about this, the better. What is the journey you imagine? Let's use a like someone in my niche, right? We could talk about your prolapse. We could talk about something else, postpartum depression. Let's use a user in my niche, right? So somebody has an abortion. Is it that they're Googling and then they find that this women's cycles exists? What's your vision? Or is it that people are finding it before they need it?
Oh, good question.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, we would love if people could find it before they need it, right? And that they are aware that this exists, and like just feeling safe in that here is a platform with so many women who've been through so many things and come out on the other side and are now helping other women to process this situation in their lives. So that's definitely kind of the end goal, to be that platform that kind of every woman has in mind. As soon as some symptom or challenge comes up in her life, then she can like, oh, I'll go to Women's Cycles and see if there's a course there, so I can get some support and community around my own journey.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I might be Googling like, I don't know, even like therapy, like this is the first thing most people think of, right? Like I'm Googling therapy after abortion, or healing after abortion, or depression after abortion. And then Women's Cycles pops up. So everybody, if you go to my website, if you go to the Work With Me tab, there's a link that says, I don't know, Women's Cycles post-abortion course or something. I can't remember. But the beauty, I think, is like, so I am in the subscription because I'm a course creator, and it invites me to think. When you had your birth control experience, it didn't invite you to think about other parts of your reproductive life. It was just like isolated. And then you had your abortion experience, and it didn't really invite you to think about other parts of your life. It was like kind of isolated. And then the prolapse, right? But if you find Women's Cycles for any particular reason, it kind of invites you into this space to be like, what else is going on in my body? Like, what else might I encounter in my reproductive years? What are the other ways my health as a woman specifically matters? I think that is a beautiful thing, right? Instead of thinking it all in these isolated issues, like, because I'm in there now, I'm like, oh, well, you know, I am in my 40s, and we're like, sometimes I wonder if we're moving into perimenopause and like all the things. So that's there to go to, which I think is so cool. Actually, you know what just happened to me?
No?
I love my women's health office. Have loved them since I was a teenager. Just yesterday, I called to make an appointment, just like regular exam, which I don't do annually like I'm supposed to. And there was like two choices: a brand new male obstetrician, or a male obstetrician who I happened to have seen and loved for my abortion. But I was thinking, like, this is not cool. Like, this is not cool that these are my only two options as a woman. I'm not opposed to male obstetricians, but like, if I just want to go and do an annual check-in about my health as a woman, there's like a whole bunch of midwives in the practice, female obstetricians, and I can't see like a woman. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah.
So not that I want to go to Women's Cycles instead of a healthcare provider, but in some cases that may be my answer. And I'm a privileged white woman in the United States of America with health insurance. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And so, like, if anyone has access to good healthcare, it's me. And I don't have someone to say like, hey, I'm in my 40s. Like, what's coming up for me in my reproductive health? Like, because even when I do go, it'll be like a 20-minute rushed appointment. And so I think that to me is like the beauty of what, if we can normalize talking about all these women's cycles, right? And actually learn and actually apply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, exactly that.
So exciting. Where are you at in the journey of sharing, and how can people help share the website?
Yeah, so womenscycles.com is the website, and we launched 4 months ago, so it's still new, but we have many women signing up already, and yeah, we are building this as a movement. We really want to reach as many women as we can. regarding all the different challenges. We have listed 4,000 plus symptoms, challenges, diagnoses for women that they might face in a lifetime. So we want to cover all of them. That's going to take a while. But yeah, so please share. And yeah, of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram.
And what if somebody's listening who is a provider of some kind and thinks they might be able to support other women through this website? Is that something you're open to? People saying, hey, I could create a course about XYZ.
Yes, absolutely. So we have a tab on our website that so you can kind of apply to become a creator.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Because if more of us are like, wait, I actually do have something to offer.
Mm.
What I love about what you're creating is you don't necessarily have to have a fancy degree or like a master's, or you don't have to be a physician. This is just like, hey, it's almost like the red tent of the internet, like back in the day, right?
Yeah.
It's like 21st century women's tent. Like you get to go in and learn from each other. Like we can learn a lot from each other.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing.
Mm. Yeah, and I love it. We also have something that we call the support program, and that's where our subscribers get more support if they are really like on a healing journey and want support and more hand-holding through that process. And so I have had some women who have prolapse, and I am guiding them and giving them also the option that, did you have an abortion? Here's a course to heal.
Right.
So that people can start to connect that, you know, it's not maybe only the prolapse now. You really need to, like, we are holistic beings, and you need to look at both the physical aspect and the emotional and the spiritual.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's amazing. And that's what we really want to create, like different methods on all aspects of each issue.
I love that. We always say in my world, like how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? And so if you come in and learn about yourself and your body and your like life through prolapse, and then you're like, wait a second, how I've done this is how I did that too, right? Like these same stories are showing up in other parts of my life. Where else can I do some healing work and pull all of this together? Yeah.
Okay.
It's so beautiful. I mean, I feel like it's just at the tip of the iceberg. And I'm excited about more people finding it. I actually don't remember how many videos were in the course that I created for you, but anyone is welcome. Again, it's in the Work With Me tab on my website. You can go in and take that course. It is not something I offer in any other way. Like I don't do an automated course in any other way on my site or with my people. Like I work with people one-on-one. I do some group work, I do some workshop work, but this is the only place that I have like a fully automated, take it at your own pace kind of course available. So it's a great option. Not everybody is ready to talk to someone, especially about abortion. It takes some trust building and some creation of safe space. So if you're more ready to just go take a course with me on the video, go do it.
Yeah, and you can use Amanda's code, which is AmandaWC, and you will get a discount of 15%.
Perfect. And that is on that tab. I know that is there too. So
yeah. So, and sorry, capital letters, AmandaWC.
And the website is Women Cycles. All right. Well, it's been great talking to you. And I look forward to watching this grow, and maybe I'll create some more courses.
Yay.
We'll see what happens next.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and for sharing, for creating this space. And yeah, it's so needed.
Is there actually, I have one more question for you. Is there anything you feel like a listener today, like a message or something from your own personal experience with abortion, anything you think someone listening might want to hear that feels to you like what you would have wanted to hear when you were in it?
Good. That's a good question, because when I think about myself in that time, I was very impatient. Like I just wanted to get over with it. And so I don't think I was really open to like anything. I didn't want to kind of talk about it and all of that. So I think what I would have needed is a hug, like someone holding me for a long time, and just so maybe I could have melted like a little bit into the whole experience. Because what I see now is that I stuffed it up in my system, and it didn't do me any good. So that's
a great example of how sometimes we think we can pack something away and ignore it and pretend it didn't happen, but it affects our whole body and it affects our future. And hopefully we can just create more spaces to give those hugs and help people open up. Well, if you need a virtual hug, we're here for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and as always, please consider sharing, rating, and reviewing this podcast. It helps me reach a wider audience and invites more people to thrive after abortion. If you're someone who chose abortion and find yourself struggling, hiding, or wishing you could move beyond your experience, head over to my website and book a free call. We'll talk about how you can start living the life you made your choice for.